My invention was stolen, but the thieves forgot that I owned the copyright and had to pay me $35,000. A couple of years ago, when I was 18, I got my degree in game development. It's a 4-year track with the last year being 4 months internship and 4 months to work on a test of skill. This is a project that you can think up yourself to prove that you're capable in game development. I just had my internship at a very small game studio, which was just 2 women. Let's call them B and C. You might later want to amend this to B word and C word. They both specialized in 3D model making and 2D art. Textures, graphics, that kind of stuff. Neither of them was a programmer, so they got interns to program stuff for them. I was kind of disappointed as I had no experienced programmer to learn from or to guide me, but this was my only option since I started looking for an internship too late. B and C were kind of nasty and condescending in their language use. I didn't stand up for myself much. I was always just kind of a fat nerd and had no self-confidence coming out of high school or college. What was cool was that they were located in an incubator, which is like a large office building that rents desks for like €50 a month instead of floors. Great for startups and single-person companies. As a cherry on top, it was also an incubator that specialized in game companies. So, lots of contacts and opportunities to meet people in the industry. I had fun there, at first. They'd already started on a project, and I asked them what system they wanted me to make. Like inventory, menus, or gameplay elements. They had an idea of what they wanted. It was a game for kids that used augmented reality. AR is quite difficult to make. And they didn't want to use APIs from companies that had already made the AR system, because that would cost too much money. So for 3 out of the 4 months I was there, I built my own AR system. It was really tough and I had no help, other than from Stack Overflow. Love them. Because the other devs in the incubator had their own stuff to work on. The best way to learn programming is to be good with Google and just jump in the deep end and figure it all out. So I finished the AR system that worked with 2D image recognition. Perfect for what they wanted. But it turned out they didn't have a game design document, which is a plan of the sorts of stuff you want in your game. They also didn't have a to-do wall or anything. So I spent my last month making inventory systems and stuff that always ended up not being the way they wanted after all. They just said we need an inventory system, but didn't know what it all had to do. So basically, my time was wasted there. Skip forward 5 months. I got my degree and decided I wanted to check out the industry some more. I got all of my savings out and decided I could spend a year making games and maybe it would lead to something. So I rented a desk at the incubator and thought about what game I was going to make. B and C believed that if you're technical, you're not creative. They saw programmers like tools used to achieve their vision. 2 things annoying about that. The first is, just because I like programming doesn't mean I'm incapable of imagining worlds and stories. 2. Game devs and game designers need each other. 2 disciplines of equal importance that make a game work. So this is what happened when they approached me. B said, "Hey Sam, are you busy?" I replied, "I'm just thinking about what kind of game I want to make." She then goes, "Hey C, come over, he's not busy." C comes over. "Hi Sam, could you help us out with something?" Yeah, sure, what can I do for you?" "We need you to make a menu for Unity, which is the game engine we were working in, for the AR system that you made." Now I'll admit, the AR system was not the easiest to work with. It had a lot of settings and a series of steps needed to make it work with an image. And they wanted me to simplify it, even though I'd made an extensive manual on how to make it work. But I'd learned so much in those 8 months and was positive I could improve the system a lot. Which was good because the current code belonged to them. But I could use the same architecture of code and rework it to make it mine. So I say, yeah, alright, I guess I can rework the system and make it more user-friendly.
Nice. Let us know when you're finished.
I spent about a month making my AR system better and the finished system only 10% code with the old system. That was when I told them it was finished and showed it off. I said, "This 2.0 version had better tracking in all light conditions, it can cover more angles, needs less detail, and now has a very user-friendly UI along with tooltips." What I also did is change the standard script Unity gives you when you make a new script. I put my name and copyright in the code so I could prove it was all mine. B and C were very happy with it and even asked me to join their project as a partner. I said, "Yeah, I'd love to join. I'll even give you a discount on the AR system." C said with kind of a smug face,
Yeah, we won't be paying you. The code was already ours and you just improved it. Besides, we didn't sign a contract or anything. Just be happy with the opportunity we just gave you. And if you didn't intern with us, you wouldn't be here to begin with."
"Are you serious? I spent a month working on this."
"Yeah, but you'll make plenty with the project," said B.
There was nothing I could do about it, so I just sucked it up and agreed to join the project. Maybe I agreed more out of FOMO rather than excitement to work with them. I did learn a lesson though. Always have a contract. And boy did I draw something up. For the contract, I had a right to 25% of the finished product's income, basic stuff. But because I didn't trust B&C and was determined not to be burned again, I drew up a general conditions contract, which was basically the policy and restrictions of working with my one-man studio. It has all the basic rights and stuff, but it also had 2 clauses that make me laugh to this day. The first, any and all code developed by me belonged to me in perpetuity, and may not be copied, modified, or used in any way without my express permission, and under no condition can I be forced to release the code files. Fine on breach of contract was €1,000 per script file. The AR system had more than 20 scripts in it, by the way. The second clause was when I got fired from a shared product, I was entitled to €50 for every hour I spent working on the project, no exceptions. They signed both contracts without even reading them, and didn't have contracts for me in return. The first contract was what bound me to the project. And here comes the good part. I learned pretty early on that I was just there to listen and make whatever they wanted. They didn't want my input on anything. Even if they had dumb, impractical, or just impossible ideas about what the game should have, I couldn't protest or suggest something else, even though I tried. So fast forward 6 months, it's winter now and the project is just not going very well. I constantly have to revisit finished components because they wanted more functionality in them. I wasn't happy and went over to their desks to complain and demand a final document I could work off. They said, "It's called feature creep and a real game developer should know how to deal with that. It's not alright, I'm wasting my time because you two can't make up your minds and get a final idea in your heads." B&C dismissed me and later sent me an email. "Dearest partner, we regret to inform you that our partnership is not working out and we've decided to let you go from the project. We hope there aren't any hard feelings." I was quite angry, but I remembered the clauses, so at least I'd get paid a lot of money. I went over to their desks with the meanest grin on my face. "Hey guys, I read your email. That sucks, but I understand. We have creative ideas and we're just not on the same page."
"We're so happy you understand. Are you sure there are no hard feelings?"
"No, not at all. I learned a lot and had fun. I can recycle the components to make other games."
"Just remember you can't do anything similar to our game."
They referred to the competition clause in my internship contract, which apparently I was still under because that project wasn't finished. "Oh yeah, no worries, I got something else in mind." After which I returned to my desk and sent them an invoice of 26 weeks, 40 hours a week for $50 an hour on the project, with my log to back it up. Total cost? €52,000, which is around $60,000 at the time of writing. They freaked out. They had nowhere near this kind of money as they were both working second jobs and were saving up wanting to start a family with their boyfriends.
C says, "There's no way we're paying this much. We understand some compensation is warranted, but this is too much."
I said, "I lost 6 months of income on this project and you signed on these terms." I had a copy of the general conditions and pointed the clause out to them. "But fine, I'll take it to court and we'll see what the judge has to say." The court proceedings took around 8 months. I decided in the meantime that owning a one-man game studio was really hard and decided to go to university and get a degree in IT and do game dev on the side. But that's another story. The judge had decided I was in the right thanks to my logs and copyright lines in the code, but also asking for too much as it would utterly bankrupt B&C. So I'd get €20,000 and be reimbursed for legal costs, totaling about €35,000. For B&C, it was a massive blow. B had to sell her car to get the money and couldn't get a mortgage for the house she wanted to buy. They also had to use home offices as the others working at the incubator wouldn't even talk with them anymore, since I made sure everyone there knew what happened and how they tried to screw me over. I also told the entire story to my old teachers and no interns will be coming to them from my old college. The last time I heard from them was a year or so later asking me for the code I made for the project. A hard drive had crapped out and they didn't have backups, and this shows their level of professionalism. I laughed my butt off over the phone and pointed them to the number 1 clause of the general conditions. You can't claim the code. It's in the general conditions. You can't even work with anything I made because you don't have my permission to use my code. And if you did, you'd owe me another 20,000 euros. Tell you what though, I'll sell it to you. How much do you want? 52,000 euros. A silence on the other end of the phone. Click. As of now, their studio is out of business and I am to graduate next year with no study debt at all. I've lost weight and have a lot more self-confidence. This story makes me feel powerful and good about myself. I stood up and it got rewarded. Don't mess with the fat programming nerd. In short, my project partners tried to get me to do work for free and then kicked me out. I sued them and got 35k. They're out of business now. Wow. I'm trying to think from some perspective where these people don't come off as the jerks, and I honestly can't think how you pull some of the crap that B&C tried to pull and think that you're the good guy in this negotiation. Don't try to rip off your employees and workers, people. Also, I, a person that only knows a bit about business, understand that feature creep isn't something you strive for or just an excuse for messing up people's time. It's kind of an inevitability, but also, it sounds like every decision made at this place was spur of the moment, and nobody attempted to try and just talk through a design goal from the beginning. Although having your business shut down is no doubt a really rough deal and completely destructive for their lives, I'm just glad that they're several steps back from being able to trick future trusting devs and programmers into being able to work on the code that they no longer have access to, and that they won't be sent any more interns by the author's college, at least. And a lesson we've learned many times on this channel: write contracts, people. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Boss did not like the look of the bulk mailing stamp and told me to remove it. Cost the company over 220k. Back in the 1980s, I worked for a sporting goods company as a catalog designer. Small company, privately owned. I was the entire advertising department by myself. I created 4 catalogs a year. These were responsible for most of our mail order sales, pre-internet, to the tune of around 700,000 a year. We sent the catalogs via bulk mail using a mailing service. This let us send them for a much discounted rate. To do this required the use of a bulk mail permit, and placing the permit info on the mailing area of the catalog. Technically, it's called a fiche. Enter my new boss. Call him Ron. I was number 1, the only one in my department. For some reason, the company hired Ron as a favor to a friend. From day 1, he was micromanaging, questioning everything, and screwing up my very tight schedule. This was before computers were common. Everything was by hand. Literally typing out copy and reducing it on a photocopier to fit, developing the photo film myself, making prints, etc. The actual printer had to add screens to the photos so they'd print, burn metal plates, and so on. All time-consuming and expensive. Deadlines couldn't be missed, so I was stuck with several 16-hour days come crunch time. I was complaining to the owner, but he really couldn't care less. I really wanted to stick it to Ron, and the opportunity presented itself. Constant threats of, my way or you're fired, were getting to me. The latest pre-summer catalog was done, because summer was our big season. I had to give him my mock-up, photocopied sheets stapled together, of the final catalog for his approval. A new step added after he demanded it. He looked at it and sent it back with several pointless revisions, and a note to remove that ugly permit box, because apparently it wasn't needed. Where he worked previously, they stuffed their mailers in envelopes. The envelopes had the fiche, but their mailer did this last step. I simply asked him to initial the changes, as this was the final approved version and was going to the printer the next day. There was no time to check it again. So he did. I knew it would be a total mess, and it's something I would never have done in the past. 50,000 catalogs printed and shipped directly to the mailer. The day they arrive at the mailer, the boss gets a call from the sales rep. We can't mail your catalogs. My boss storms into my area of the building and is literally screaming. Ron is now angry and yelling at me, joined by the boss. I swear, spittle and froth, vein bulging, screaming. Minimum 2-week delay, wasted money, lost sales. I explained what happened, the threat to fire me, and showed the owner the changes to the final copy. Initialed by Ron. He was going to give Ron a second chance until the bill came in from the printer. They had to stamp 50,000 catalogs by hand. We had to rent their permit since that's what was on their stamp. Rental and labor were almost 8,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's 20K. Plus our early summer sales boost was off by almost 50K from previous years, or 200K adjusted for inflation. Ron was fired. I was left alone after that. Could I have done this another way? Am I the jerk? The many stories of bad bosses we get on this channel, coupled with the movie Office Space, have done a pretty good job in convincing the narrator that at least 60% of all middle managers are just redundant idiots who actively detract from the day-to-day work of any given workplace. It kinda sounds like Ron was a jerk in that desperate position of needing to look like he was doing something, anything, to justify his position, in a workplace that was probably already working about as optimally as one could hope. Also, can you imagine removing a branded stamp, or a stamp that is clearly there for a reason, and not imagining that said mark is there for a particular purpose or obligation? It's akin to taking the 20th Century Fox logo off the beginning of your film because you don't like them, and not expecting the inevitable multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I will say that the story is a bit of a cowboy move. I don't see how you risk losing the company that much money just to get back at someone you hate. What if the place went under? What a maverick you are, author. Also, another example of why you get signatures on everything you can. I have to pay for that 10 cents personal call charge? Done. Back in the days before unlimited mobile phone calling plans and long distance, I had a company-paid flip phone. There were all kinds of fussy rules attached to using it. No texting, even though texting was free. No long-distance calls, with one exception, as I'll explain soon. No special ringtones, and no using the camera. Like I said, fussy rules. The one exception to the no long-distance calls rule was for travel. In my job, I rarely would have to travel to a different calling area, like roaming. But if I did, I was permitted one long-distance call per day to call home. That's it. So, the day came when I had to travel and stay overnight in a hotel for work. When I arrived at the hotel, I called my wife to let her know I'd arrived and spent a couple of minutes talking to my kids. Got some supper, did some work in front of the TV in the hotel room, and went to bed. The next day, while at the conference I was attending, I got a call from my home office. As I was in a large hotel, the call dropped, so I had to call back. Didn't think anything of it, went back to my session and enjoyed the speaker. Later, after I got back to the hotel, I called home to say goodnight to the kids. I got the answering machine and left a message. Didn't think anything of that either. The next day I returned and went on with my life. At the end of the month, I got a call from finance. "Peter, it's the finance supervisor. I'm just reviewing your latest cell phone bill and it shows an unauthorized long-distance call." "Really? What's the date?" "April 3rd. You made a call to the office number at 9:20 and then another one to my home number at 6:15. "Oh yeah, that's when I was at the conference. The first call was to me from the office, but I got cut off and had to call back. I called home from the hotel later." "So, how would you like to reimburse us for the call?" "I beg your pardon?" "The second call. You have to reimburse for the unauthorized long-distance call. You have an expense claim from the conference, so I can deduct it from that, or you can pay directly." "How much are we talking about?" 10 cents. 10 cents? 10 cents. Would you like that deducted from your expense claim?" I thought I was being punked. Seriously. I sat in stunned silence for a few moments. "No. You know what? I'll pay you directly," I said, and wished the supervisor a pleasant day. I opened my drawer where I had some spare change. I took 2 nickels, taped them to a sheet of 8.5 by 11-inch paper, and wrote, "For cell phone charge," and my name. I then took a company envelope, addressed it to the finance office, in a different building, walking distance away, folded a sheet of paper, and put it in the envelope. I put the envelope in the outgoing mail tray, the postage for which would be paid for by the company. A few days later, I got a call from the comptroller herself. 3 pay grades above me, and usually wouldn't interact with someone on my level. Apparently, the supervisor had complained about me. She said, "What's with the nickels?" I explained the situation, told her the supervisor had insisted that I pay the 10-cent charge and that I'd complied. She laughed out loud. The paper, envelope, and postage had cost the company more than what they recovered. The following month, the finance department updated the cell phone policy. From then on, only long-distance charges in excess of $10 had to be reimbursed. What a day for incompetent office workers who don't have enough to do in their lives. First Ron, and now whichever person in finance thought that 10 cents was worth a phone call and a bunch of admin. Look, maybe the supervisor who kicked all of this off really did genuinely care enough about their job to kick up a mega fuss about the missing 10 cents. My money is on them trying to look busy, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt anyway. Even if they do care this much, what did they plan on doing if you didn't pay? Going to the higher-ups and whining and griping that an employee had cost the company a whole 10 cents more than allowed? Actually, I wouldn't put it past them, given they're clearly more than okay with lodging complaints about this sort of thing to the frickin' comptroller. Still, a very positive outcome. No longer will employees live in fear of these charges, and everyone can call home a lot more. Super nice improvement when all is said and done. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.